Good morning. It's wonderful to have you with us this morning. And I feel that every time I stand here after Sunday services, it's always one more week of you never know what's going to change over the course of the week. And for all the planning you do, you're suddenly thrown into doing things differently. Not least of which is all of the surprises that our software Zoom is throwing at us these days in terms of slight little malfunctions that we have no control over. But we do our best, and one of the things that I wanted to try to address today was talk a little bit about what it means to come back into this building. We're now getting to the point where not only are we all very restless to be able to expand our paths throughout the day, but we'd also like to gather again. And there's a lot in the news about that, but we're trying to take very thoughtful, very methodical steps forward, so that people can feel when they come back into this place that it's a very good place to be and very safe to be here. So we will continue to monitor what we're doing and how we're doing it, and how that is timely or untimely according to other events. But I thought for the forum today, I'd like to bring you something that I hope is an invitation for you to experience this space differently than you have for the last 10 weeks, and maybe differently than you have for all of the time you've been here. But it's a really beautiful and important opportunity of being able to come into this building and realize things that perhaps you never realized before. The former Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams, just recently came out with a new book entitled Luminaries. It's a beautiful title, and it's a small little book. It's 20 biographies of people in his experience and in his knowledge that he believes really cast light on what it means to be a human being and how we can be that together. I looked at it originally, and my initial thought, just reading the first 2 or 3 pages, was this was a book that it took a lifetime to prepare for him, to be able to make those discernments and then be able to address them as succinctly and as wonderfully as he does. It's not a book about heroes. We talk a lot about heroes, and heroes come and go, they're kind of the moment. It's really a book about those whose influence is forever lasting, and in a much softer, much more integral way. And it was at the end of his introduction to the book that he made the statement that I put in the little notice about this forum. They are amazing words, and I think that they are, in some ways, the best description of the gospel I've ever heard. And they're really words that are worth our thinking about, particularly on this weekend. He said, "The world is more than you ever thought, and you are more than you ever thought. And God is more than you could begin to think. And you are not trapped in the story you tell yourself about yourself. And that vision is a gift worth sharing." I think that in a way, this building and this whole campus speaks to those words. I wrote a piece for The Voice that's coming to your doorstep soon. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, these are thoughts that I'd really love to share with you personally, verbally, rather than just in writing. So I'm going to take some of that article that I wrote, and I'm going to offer it now. And I hope that you feel the difference between the reading and the speech. I was thinking about this space. I've spent a lot of time in it alone over the last 10 weeks. And it suddenly occurred to me that this space is like many others that are wonderful to be in. And while I was thinking about that, I thought, I have never had the privilege to be able to stand at home plate, Citizens Bank Park. I'm aware that very few people ever have that opportunity, particularly in light of the thousands who come to the stadium and even more numbers that follow the Phillies throughout the season on television, etc. But as I was thinking about that, I thought, if I ever had the opportunity to stand at home plate, I would want to do it, not when there's a crowd in the park, and not when there's a game coming. I wouldn't be interested, for instance, perhaps as much in throwing out the first pitch. It's a very choreographed event. You have a couple moments and then you're moved off and other things come. I would love to be able to stand there when the stadium is empty. And I'd love the opportunity to contemplate many things in the patience and silence of that time. You know, when baseball stadiums are empty, the field is more easily populated with a flood of imagination. And this is what I think would be wonderful. I'd love to stand at the plate and think, I wonder what it's like to have a 100-mile-an-hour fastball bear down on me. Even more so, and perhaps even more frightening, I'd love to know what a major league curveball looks like. Because it's been told me it's the hardest thing in sports to do, which is to hit a curveball at that level. And I'd be interested in, what does the field look like from that space? How far is it between home plate and first? Or what would it mean to throw from third to first? You see it from the stands a lot, it looks so easy, but I think that if I were standing on the field, I think that's a very long way. Then again, I'd love to think about how much it would take to hit a fly ball out of the park at deep center. And I'd love to think about how hard it would be at the crack of the bat, if you're the outfielder, to chase a fly ball down, especially if it went all the way to the wall. And I think about how many players over the years have stood at their position on the field wondering, is this the play? Is this the moment that will make my career? That will be in the highlight films from now on? That will lift my name up to be remembered? We know those plays. We remember them. We hallow them. Just think about how many people have stood there hoping that they can be that person. Think of clutch hits and monstrous home runs, turning double plays, snapping up line drives just before they were about to hit the ground, stealing home. I don't think I'd ever tire of being on the field alone. Stadiums retain memories of times past, players past, and they also give a sense of the future, what could happen, what could be done. I think the grass itself inspires patience, that ability just to slow down and think through many things, and to be enthralled by what happens there with regularity that we take for granted. I would love to have that time. Now, my own feeling is that when I walk through this space, I have very similar ideas. Even when nobody else is in this church, it is remarkably populated. Just as baseball is a sort of liturgy, worship mimics sports. It's predictable, surprising, determined by who is there and how what is done is done. And we formulate many, many memories of things that are really profound and beautiful and lasting in our lives when we're in this space. So there is a profound grace to an empty church. this building is a repository of memories, kept with a kind of reverence that makes them all holy. I walk up and down the aisles every day. And every day there's something new that comes to me. I think about where the people I know have sat in the past. I wonder how they are because they're no longer able to sit here for a time. I often find myself thinking about the services I've done, the couples who have stood in front of me to offer vows. Or I think about where caskets have been set. And I think about moving around them. And even in their absence now, I can feel the presence of what once was. And then I can feel remarkably privileged that I had the opportunity to be present at that time, to lend my voice and my song and God's word to somebody's life. And then they come to mind, and I remember so much about them. The church feels different from a lot of different angles. We've tried to give you some photographs that give you a sense of this space in a way that you wouldn't normally see it. But as we're moving toward opening up in many ways publicly, we've invited people into this space, and people come and they sit in the pews and they pray. We've been very grateful for that. But what I'd really like to do is encourage people to come into this space as we're opening up public spheres and do something more than sit in a pew, but to walk through this building and exercise your memory and exercise your imagination and exercise your ability to see differently. Many people never make it up into this chancel. There are a lot of chairs, a lot of spaces. I always encourage people to come in sometime and come into the space, not just to walk around, you know already what's here, but to sit and contemplate and imagine the music and imagine the readings and imagine the people and imagine the events and realize that there is so much history here and so much liveliness and so much richness of human person. You can sit in these chairs here. You can sit up in the chairs up in the high chancel. You can move around the place, stand in the pulpit someday, stand and wonder what it would be like to address people at length about the nature of your faith. The church is full of plaques that provide a sense of memory. I have been here more than 10 years. I have paid a lot of attention to them. I'm still finding plaques that I haven't read or taken in adequately enough. It's such a beautiful thing to realize the fullness of life that is given expression in this space. And more than anything else, if you can come into this space and really have patience, you'll find that things come to mind that never could have come to mind otherwise. I think differently in this space. I feel blessed by the people I've known who are part of the history of this parish. And time in every portion and division feels like a gift. I'm here every day. I never tire of it. Not because of what I do as a priest, but because of who I am as a person. And the other night as I was walking down, it suddenly occurred to me, I feel like when I'm standing in this place, that I'm standing at home plate. And life is very rich. We really mean our invitation to you to step out of your normal habits and try to experience this space anew. You won't be disappointed. And it's easily done. Just sit in a different spot for 20 minutes, or decide to spend time in the baptistry, or slowly walk through and ruminate over all the things that you have experienced here over the years you've been here. It really is like having a great stadium open, and you have the opportunity to be there and populate it with so much that you'll be surprised is within you because of this place. Rowan Williams was right on so many different levels. The world is more than you ever thought. You are more than you ever thought. And God is more than you could begin to think. And you are not trapped in the story you tell yourself about yourself. You'll realize that by being in this place. And the vision you get then will be a gift worth sharing. So as you step out of the limits we've set on ourselves in this time, consider coming here. Give yourself a half hour to do something you've never done before. And then be amazed at how surprised you'll be by how rich the experience is. I hope you'll do that. Thank you.